They say youth has its charm, but old age has its own kind of beauty, a quiet depth that only a few ever appreciate. You see, most people think attractiveness fades as the years go by. That couldn't be further from the truth. If you live the right way, if you cultivate the right habits, you become even more magnetic, even more intriguing as you age. It's not about the color of your hair or the smoothness of your skin. It's about the depth of your soul, the wisdom in your words, and the way you carry yourself through life. If you have the right hobbies, the kind that nourish your spirit and sharpen your mind, then you, my friend, are a rare gem. A rare gem in a world that doesn't always recognize true value until it's too late. Now, I'm not talking about just any hobbies. I'm talking about the ones that set you apart, the ones that make people stop and take notice, hobbies that don't just keep you busy, but make you radiate something special, something that makes younger folks admire you, your peers respect you, and even strangers feel drawn to you. Most people let life dull them down as they get older. They stop being curious, stop being excited, stop challenging themselves. But if you have the right hobbies, you're different. You still have that spark, and trust me, people can see it. The first kind of hobby that makes you incredibly attractive at this stage in life. A hobby that shows you're still learning. It could be anything. Reading deeply, writing stories, learning a new language, even picking up philosophy for the first time. There's something profoundly attractive about an older person who is still hungry for knowledge. It tells the world you haven't given up on life, that you're still growing, still evolving. And you know what that does? It makes people want to listen to you. It makes them lean in when you speak, because they know you have something worth saying. When you talk, you don't just talk from memory. You speak with insight, perspective, and fresh wisdom. That's rare. Most people your age have stopped learning. They rely on what they've always known. But if you keep expanding your mind, you become someone people naturally want to be around. Now let's talk about the second kind of hobby. The one that shows you still take care of yourself. Not for vanity, but out of self-respect. Whether it's dancing, swimming, practicing yoga, or just walking every morning with a sense of purpose. Taking care of your body makes you attractive in a way that has nothing to do with looking young. It's about energy. People can feel when someone respects their own body. They carry themselves differently. They have a quiet confidence, a grace that comes from treating themselves well. And this kind of confidence, it's contagious. When younger people see an older person still moving, still standing tall, still taking pride in how they carry themselves, they take note. They think, wow, I want to be like that when I get older. But let's be clear. This isn't about trying to turn back time. It's not about fighting aging. It's about embracing it while staying strong, staying vibrant. And when you do that, you're not just attractive, you're inspiring. Then there's a third kind of hobby, one that's even more powerful than people realize, the kind that shows you can create. It could be painting, woodworking, playing an instrument, or even gardening in a way that feels like an art form. Creation is a rare thing in older age. Most people consume. They watch. They listen. They observe. But to create, that's special. It means you still have something to give. And when people see you create, they see your spirit. They see that you're still alive in a way many people your age aren't. There's something magnetic about watching someone work on a craft, watching their hands move with purpose, seeing the concentration in their eyes, the satisfaction when they finish something they're proud of. It doesn't matter if you're a master or just doing it for fun. The act of creating makes you deeply attractive because it shows passion. and passion is timeless. Now, these are just the first 3. There are 3 more hobbies that make someone truly rare, truly remarkable at this stage of life. But before we dive into those, take a moment to think about this. How many people do you know who are still learning, still moving, still creating? Not many, right? That's why those who do, they stand out. They glow in a way most people don't. And if you're one of them, you don't just age, you evolve. You don't just exist, you inspire. Most people don't realize this. But true attractiveness has nothing to do with looks and everything to do with presence. Some people walk into a room, and something about them just draws you in. They could be 65, 75, even 80 years old, and yet they have more magnetism than someone half their age. And do you know why? Because they have cultivated a way of living that makes them undeniably compelling. It's in the way they think, the way they move, and most importantly, the way they engage with life. We've already talked about 3 hobbies that make you incredibly attractive as you age: learning, movement, and creating. But the list isn't complete yet. There are 3 more, and these might just be the most powerful ones of all. If you have these in your life, you are a rare gem, someone who stands out in a world where most people let time wear them down instead of building them up. Let's talk about the 4th kind of hobby, the kind that brings people together. The ability to connect with others is one of the most overlooked yet powerful traits of an attractive person. And no, I'm not just talking about being social for the sake of it. I mean truly engaging with people in a way that makes them feel seen, heard, and valued. Some people think that as they get older, they naturally become less interesting to younger generations. But that's not true. Not if you cultivate the right kind of presence. If you have a hobby that involves storytelling, mentorship, or even just deep, thoughtful conversations, you become someone people want to be around. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who could tell a story so well that everyone in the room stopped to listen? Someone who had a way of making even the simplest moments sound profound. That kind of ability is rare, and it comes from a life well lived. It comes from being observant, from reflecting on your own experiences, and from learning how to articulate them in a way that others find valuable. This could be through writing, public speaking, or even just being the kind of person who always has a fascinating story to share over coffee. If you can do this, you will never be forgotten. People will gravitate toward you, not because of what you look like, but because of what you make them feel. Now let's move on to the 5th hobby. This one is not just about mental or emotional attraction. It's about the kind of energy you bring into a room. And one of the most attractive energies you can have is the ability to fix things. It could be repairing an old watch, restoring antique furniture, working on cars, or even just being the person in your family who knows how to solve problems. There is something deeply attractive about someone who is resourceful, someone who doesn't panic when things go wrong, but instead rolls up their sleeves and gets to work. Most people these days have lost the ability to fix things. We live in a throwaway culture. When something breaks, people replace it. But an older person who still knows how to work with their hands, who still understands patience and craftsmanship, that's rare, that's valuable. And people respect that. It shows independence, intelligence, and the kind of quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever life throws at you. Think about it. How many people do you know who still have the patience to repair things instead of discarding them? Probably not many. And that's exactly why those who do stand out, they bring a sense of reliability, a sense of wisdom that younger generations deeply admire. When you have this kind of hobby, People look at you not just as someone with skills, but as someone with depth. And that kind of depth is incredibly attractive. Now let's talk about the final hobby, the one that ties everything together, the ability to give back. There is no greater sign of a life well lived than someone who uses their time, energy, and wisdom to make the world a little bit better. Whether it's volunteering, mentoring younger people, helping out in your community, or simply being the person others can turn to for advice, giving back is the ultimate sign of strength. You see, a lot of people become bitter as they get older. They focus on what they've lost, on what they no longer have. But the most attractive people, they do the opposite. They focus on what they can still give. And that generosity, that willingness to share, is what makes them truly magnetic. Think about the most respected elders in any community. They are the ones who guide others, who offer wisdom, who don't hold on to their knowledge selfishly but instead pass it down. They don't complain about the younger generations. They mentor them. They don't isolate themselves. They engage with the world. And because of that, they are never forgotten. They leave a legacy, not through wealth or possessions, but through the lives they've touched. So let's take a moment to reflect. We've talked about 6 hobbies that make you incredibly attractive in your later years. Learning, movement, creating, storytelling, fixing things, and giving back. Think about them carefully. How many of these do you have in your life right now? Because the truth is, if you have even a few of these, you are not just an ordinary person, aging quietly. You are a rare gem, someone who radiates something most people don't even understand until they see it. The world needs more people like you. People who don't just fade into the background as they get older, but who continue to grow, evolve, and inspire. In the next section, we'll talk about something even more important: how to cultivate these hobbies in a way that feels natural, fulfilling, and deeply rewarding. Because knowing what makes you attractive is one thing, but learning how to fully embrace it, that's where the real magic happens. It's one thing to know what makes a person truly attractive in their later years. It's another thing to live it. A lot of people hear these ideas: lifelong learning, movement, creativity, storytelling, fixing things, and giving back. And they think, that sounds nice, but how do I actually make it a part of my life? And that's a good question, because wisdom is meaningless unless it's put into action. Here's what most people get wrong. They think hobbies are just pastimes, things to fill empty hours. But the truth is, the right hobbies shape who you are. They determine whether you continue to grow or slowly start to fade. And if you cultivate these 6 habits properly, you don't just become attractive, you become unforgettable. Let's start with the first one: lifelong learning. A lot of people assume that learning is something that ends after school, maybe even after their career. But those who stay sharp, those who remain fascinating at any age, never stop expanding their minds. The question is, how do you make learning a natural part of your daily life? It's simpler than you think. First, pick one subject you've always been curious about, something you've never had the time to explore. Maybe it's philosophy, maybe it's history, maybe it's poetry or science or even learning a new language. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it excites you. Once you've chosen, commit to reading just 1 page a day. That's it. No pressure, no need to master it overnight. But if you do this consistently, something magical happens. Your curiosity wakes up again. You start thinking in new ways, seeing the world differently. And soon enough, people notice. They start looking to you for insights, for wisdom. because they can sense that you're still growing. That's the key. Now let's talk about the second habit, movement. This is where many people struggle. They think exercise is about staying young, about fighting aging. But that's the wrong mindset. Movement is about presence. It's about keeping your body in tune with your mind. And the way to make it a natural part of your life isn't to force yourself into a gym. It's to find something you enjoy moving for. Maybe it's dancing. Maybe it's swimming. Maybe it's walking in the morning while listening to an audiobook. Whatever it is, the goal is to move in a way that feels good, in a way that makes you feel alive, not like you're forcing yourself through a chore. Because here's the truth. When people see someone in their 60s, 70s, or 80s moving with confidence, with a natural ease, they don't think, oh, look at that person exercising. They think, wow, that person has energy. That person is still engaged with life. And that is what makes you attractive. Now let's move to the third habit, creating. Most people stop creating because they start believing their work isn't good enough. But that's the wrong way to think about it. Creativity isn't about perfection. It's about expression. Whether it's painting, writing, playing music, or even woodworking, the goal is to engage with something that brings you joy. So, how do you make this a habit? Simple. Commit to creating one small thing a week. It doesn't have to be grand. Maybe it's writing a short poem, sketching something in a notebook, planting a new flower in your garden. The point isn't what you create. It's that you create something. Because people who create aren't just seen as interesting. They are felt as interesting. They radiate a quiet passion, a sense of depth that others are drawn to. Then comes the fourth habit, storytelling and connection. Here's something most people never realize. Being a good storyteller isn't about having an exciting life. It's about knowing how to see the meaning in everyday moments. The best storytellers aren't just the ones who have traveled the world or lived through history. They are the ones who know how to take a small, simple experience and turn it into something meaningful. So, how do you practice this? Start by paying attention. The next time you have coffee with a friend or a conversation with family, notice the small details in your day. What made you laugh? What made you stop and think? What reminded you of a lesson from years ago? If you practice telling just one meaningful story a week, whether to a friend, a grandchild, or even just writing it down, you'll start developing a way of speaking that captivates people. And the more you do it, the more people will want to listen. Next, we have the fifth habit, fixing things. This is about self-reliance. It's about knowing that when something breaks, whether it's a watch, a chair, a bicycle, or even just a simple household problem, you can figure it out. And the way to cultivate this isn't to suddenly become an expert in everything. It's to start small. Pick one thing to learn how to fix. Something simple. Maybe it's sewing a torn pocket, tuning a guitar, or sharpening a knife properly. Just one thing. The point isn't to become a master repairman. It's to develop the mindset of a problem solver. Because once you start seeing yourself as someone who can fix things, that mindset carries over into everything. And people respect that. They trust that. It makes you someone others naturally turn to when they need guidance. And finally, we come to the sixth and most powerful habit of all, giving back. There is no greater way to stay engaged with life than to invest in others. The people who are most magnetic, most deeply admired in their later years, are the ones who don't just live for themselves. They give their time, their wisdom, their presence. But how do you make giving back a habit? It doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't mean starting a charity or volunteering full-time. It can be as simple as checking in on a neighbor, mentoring someone younger, or sharing advice when someone asks. The key is to actively look for ways to be useful, to be of service. Because when people see that you still have something to give, they don't see you as someone fading away. They see you as someone growing, someone still valuable, someone they need in their lives. So now let's pause and reflect. We've talked about how to cultivate these 6 powerful habits, not just in theory, but in real everyday life. Lifelong learning, movement, creativity, storytelling, fixing things, giving back. These are the habits that don't just make you attractive, they make you memorable. They make you the kind of person people admire, respect, and seek out. And the best part? It's never too late to start. Whether you're 65, 75, or 85, you can begin right now. Because the truth is, aging isn't about losing your spark. It's about keeping the fire alive in a different way. Attractiveness in later years isn't about looking young. It's about living fully. It's about having a presence that draws people in, not because of how you appear, but because of who you are. If you've cultivated these 6 hobbies, learning, movement, creativity, storytelling, fixing things, and giving back, then you are already rare. You are someone who stands out, someone who still shines with curiosity, wisdom, and depth. But beyond hobbies, what truly makes a person magnetic at any age is a combination of 3 things: confidence, curiosity, and contentment. Confidence comes from owning your experiences, embracing who you are without apology. Curiosity keeps you engaged with life, always growing, always evolving. And contentment, that's the quiet power of appreciating where you are, of finding joy in the present instead of longing for the past. These 3 qualities make you unforgettable. They make people want to be around you, learn from you, and remember you long after you're gone. So, if you take anything from this, let it be this: you are not fading, you are becoming. You are not just growing older, you are growing richer in wisdom, in presence, in meaning. And that is the kind of beauty that never disappears. Because in the end, it's not the years that define you. It's how you live them. And if you're living with purpose, with passion, and with wisdom, then, trust me, you're a rare gem in this world.